Hey peeps, alright, here it is, the much anticipated how to buy a big old house video. So, let's get the disclaimers out of the way right away. I am not a legal advisor, I am not a lawyer, so I'm not offering you legal advice. I'm not a mortgage person, so I'm not offering mortgage advice. Let's see what else. Financial advisor. I am not a financial advisor. I am a licensed real estate agent, but you're not my client, so this is just purely spitballing and speculation. Experience from past sales that I've been a part of, but here we are just having a conversation. So with all the disclaimers out of the way, so let's chat a little bit before we get into the nuts and bolts of this. So, Iraq's RV, the whole RV's gone, and suddenly you're finding yourself with a lot of wealth. And we've all had like the dream home that we want to have, back in the day, Lifestyles of Rich and Famous, watching that show, or some Malibu mansion, if there's any that haven't been burned down. Or a place in Montana, place in Florida, whatever your dream home is. Suddenly you have the money to buy it. So how do you move forward? Okay, so the first thing that you want to think about is how much money do you have? What's your budget for the home, property, etc. that you want to buy? Are you buying an investment property? Are you buying raw land to be developed down the road, or are you just simply purchasing your dream home in Colorado that sits on the Rocky Mountains or whatever? So you have to look at how much money do you have, and then how much do you want to spend on a home. So let's just do some simple numbers. If I have $3 million, do I really want to buy a $2 or $3 million home? And the answer to that would be no, because you have to think about things like taxes, property taxes, upkeep on the home, repairs, maintenance. If you're not going to live there year round, who's going to take care of it when you're not there? There's a whole lot of things that come along with purchasing a big home like this. So you got to keep those in mind when you're factoring in your budget. If you RV, you get your money and then you want to move somewhere else, you don't want to stay in your hometown. Yeah, moving expenses, you have all kinds of things that go along with that. So the main takeaway from this point is when you're thinking about your purchase, try to take the emotion out of it. Because it's like when you go to buy a car, they don't necessarily sell you on it's got a 5.7 liter Hemi in it and all that stuff, unless you're a car guy. What they want to sell you on is the emotion of the new car smell, and look at all the latest, the biggest infotainment center in the car, and they want to play on your emotions. So then once they have you hooked on your emotions, then you're more willing to compromise on other things. And then they make a lot of money and you get a car with a big car payment. So taking the emotions out of a transaction is the key to getting what you want and for the right price. So that's where we're going to start at. There's some nuts and bolts that we'll go over as well. But just going forward, these are kind of the cautionary things I would tell you. Is then number one is take the emotion out of it. Number two, be realistic with your budget, especially if you're going to be setting aside money for your generational wealth, passing on to your kids, grandkids, whatever. So there's a lot to think about when you come into sudden wealth. And I would highly recommend everyone watching YouTube videos on the lottery winner syndrome, where people win the lottery and then a year later they're broke again because they didn't know how to manage money. Okay, now we're going to discuss inspections and why are inspections so important. Even if it's a couple $100,000 home, your next home, inspections are crucial. Even if you're doing new construction, my new construction clients in the past, I always stress getting a home inspection done. My wife and myself, when we built homes, I always get a home inspection done because your home, like it or lump this statement, but your home is built by the cheapest contractors that the builder can find. And yes, they will cut corners. So you need to have full transparency as much as is possible, because home repairs are costly. And even if you can go back on the seller, you can go back on the builder, still time, and it's still an inconvenience. So knowing all these things going forward will help you, one, in the negotiation process, and two, it'll give you a very realistic understanding of the property that you're buying. Now, when you get into multi-million-dollar or million-dollar homes, especially if they're very unique, then I would have a general inspection done. Just, the guy to come through, just like you're buying your neighbor's house, and he'll do it once over, and he'll dive into things as they should, testing electric, plumbing, and all that stuff. But then I would go a step further, and then I would have a roofing inspector come in and check thoroughly the roofing issues. A foundation guy, inspector, come in, check your foundation, all the major things: heating and air, electricity, foundations, plumbing, roofing. Because if you're buying a unique home that's million or more, chances are that it was built by custom builders or contractors that custom builders use. So it's not your typical cookie cutter home. So having, it's costly up front, but again, if you can afford a multi-million-dollar home, you can afford to have multi-inspections done, because that's only going to benefit you. And you also need to think about resale, because we don't know the future and we don't know what's going to happen, and you may find yourself in need to sell that home. So the more documentation that you can provide on your end that's been taken care of, especially a multi-point inspection, and you can offer that in your listing documents, it's only going to benefit you. So I cannot stress enough the importance of having inspections done, especially, again, when you're in a million or more home. The repairs for stuff like that are going to be much greater than if you were just buying your standard spec home house. And then check reviews on these inspectors. And you want someone who has experience with custom homes, because there's a lot to it. And you just can't run down to Lowe's and grab a cabinet to replace something that was custom built. So keep those things in mind, and definitely CYA, cover your rear end and get your inspections done. Okay, let's talk about some other things that will factor into your decision to buy a home. So are you a healthy person, or do you have health concerns? So, is the home that you're wanting to purchase, is it close to facilities like a hospital, emergency services? Or if you're wanting to live off grid or remote, like in Alaska or Montana, can they get to you in the wintertime? Is there a landing strip nearby? Can you land a helicopter? It just depends on how remote you want to be. So things like that, your home's location and relevance to hospitals, airports, travel, things like that. Are your roads accessible in the wintertime? If you're wanting to live in Florida, you have to think about insurance. Is the home that you're wanting to buy an older home? Is it hurricane compliant? Is it up to code? Can you even get insurance on it? So there's lots of things that come along with purchasing a big home. If it's if it's oceanfront, if it's beachfront, how have past hurricanes impacted that area? So then you have another issue, maintenance. Is this going to be your year-round home? If not, who's going to maintain it while you're gone? Especially like if you're thinking about Florida. Obviously, Florida Jeeper. I'm a Florida agent, so that's what I know. If you're going to live there part-time, who's maintaining your property when you're not there? Or when you're there, if you don't want to mess with yard work, you have to have a reputable company to, one, be there when they say they're going to be there and not try to rip you off, because my father-in-law has dealt with this. He'll hire a company and then go, sail off to the Bahamas, and then his neighbors calling him saying, yeah, your yard guy hasn't been here in 3 weeks. So there's a lot to consider with that. You have palm trees that you have to take care of. So many things in Florida. Everything grows, and the further south you are, it grows all the time. So yeah, those things to take care of. If you're living up in the Rocky Mountains, is the property that you're wanting to purchase subject to avalanches, or are you cut off in the wintertime because there's no accessible roads to get to you? So what if you have a medical emergency? Is there a place to land a plane or a helicopter? So lots to think about with that too. And then we've talked about the insurance, but accessibility. Are you going to be too remote? And maybe you want to be so remote that your friends and family can't get to you, but how close to a city do you want to be? Okay, you found your home, you researched the area, you researched the home, you've had your inspections done. Now it's time to write the offer. So this is kind of a twofold type thing, because we're talking now about proof of funds. So a lot of times, in order to even see a home that's $1 million or more, you have to provide proof of funds that you can actually purchase this home. So I want to talk firstly about your proof of funds and what that is. So several times in the past, I've received a potential buyer's proof of funds to purchase a house, and they just go down to their bank, or they log onto their bank account, and then they print off their statement for the month, basically. So what you have to do is be able to provide proof that you have. If we're talking about $1 million home, you have to have $1 million free and clear, so you can't have pending transactions against it. So I've been handed bank statements, and it's like it's too creepy, because I see every transaction that they've done, and it's like, if I was a bad person, I could use that information again, to do bad things. So it always bothered me receiving people's proof of funds when they would do it this way. How I will move forward when it's time for me to purchase a new home, property, whatever, is if we're talking about a $2 million purchase, then I will go to my bank and I will take that $2 million that's free and clear and move it into a brand new account that only shows that $2 million. And then I will provide that to the listing agent in order to see the home. So then, as you're moving forward, and if you go to contract and you execute the contract and you purchase the home, any and all monies associated with this purchase are in that account or coming from that account if you need to add more money to it. So I would highly recommend that, and especially if, we're all assuming the RVs happen and you have multiple millions of dollars. The fewer people that know what's going on with your banking and your bank account, the better. So, writing your offer. So, at this point, you've been working with the buyer's agent to find a home, and you want to write a contract. Again, we're talking multi-million dollar purchase. At that point, I would do some research and find a real estate attorney who's used to writing these type of contracts. And you're still working with your buyer's agent, so that person's still earning their commission, and especially if you have to pay it with the new laws regarding the real estate transactions, and that's a whole nother video. But your buyer's agent is still going to be doing the legwork back and forth and running things here and there and there's still a lot that agent's going to do. But when it comes time to write contract for said multi-million dollar home, I would involve, and I personally will involve, a real estate attorney, someone who is well versed in writing multi-million dollar contracts. And you're going to get some pushback from the listing agent because the listing agent wants to give the business to their title company. The problem with that is most title companies are used to handling simple transfers of title. If I'm buying my neighbor's house, and especially if it's an established house that has no history of title issues, it's pretty simple. When you're talking, million or more purchase, you want to go to a real estate attorney despite what the listing agent says, because at this point of the game, everything's negotiation. And if the seller really does want to sell and the listing agents is the barrier because they want their people involved, that seller is going to be like, let's go with their real estate attorney. So everything is a negotiation when you're in this dollar range. And it's you should negotiate hard because it's a lot of money. And we're not talking about $300,000 home. We're talking about, six-figure or more purchase. So definitely research. Do your due diligence into the people that you're going to hire, because this is your money, and it's not theirs. So you want to make sure that the people that are representing you know what they're doing. Okay, guys, wrapping up. So this is the just to recap, and I want to reiterate to you guys: be super careful. You're suddenly wealthy. I highly recommend watching videos on the lottery winner syndrome, where these people have won the lottery and a year later they're broke or worse, living on the streets. It happens because when you live paycheck to paycheck, you don't really know how to manage big money like that. And I'm not saying you specifically, myself included. We're not millionaires, so we don't think like millionaires. And that's probably the biggest challenge and the best opportunity for you to invest in yourself is learning how to manage money, learning how to invest. You should be doing that right now anyway, until we're waiting for the RV to happen. But learning how to invest money, learning how to handle money, learning how to take the emotion out of purchasing. A lot of us are emotional purchase, knee-jerk reaction. We see a car commercial when we go test drive a car, and before you know it, you're buying the car while you have a perfectly fine automobile sitting in your driveway. So that's key to every transaction, is learning how to take your emotion out of the transaction, because then you're not subject to the game. And then, you also have to consider, are you setting up your kids and your grandkids and their grandkids? Are you setting up generational wealth? And if so, you don't want to be spending all that money up front. There's going to be a lot of changes coming to our lives once this thing finally happens. And sadly, some of us will not do well with sudden wealth. It's people, you have to look at people who are addicted to gambling. They could go to all the therapy and all that stuff, and then they get near a casino. That emotion will drag them back in there, and then before you know it, they're broke again. So, unfortunately, some people will not be able to handle this. I think the most of us will be grateful enough that this has finally happened, that we won't squander it, or we won't do emotional purchases and things that are going to give us long-term problems. So research on how to invest your money, research into if you're going to make an investment like a multi-family apartment complex or something like that, research, because there's so many hidden things into that, and YouTube is like a library of everything. So you can find a video on almost any subject. So I would definitely look into, if you're going to purchase property in Florida that you think would be a great place to build apartment complexes, is it in a wet zone? Have soil samples been done? There's a lot to think about there. And apply that model to anywhere that you're looking to invest money at. Learn, I can't stress this enough, especially Gen X and older. Guys, we need to be learning about crypto, because it's not going away and it's the future. So the more that you understand it, the less likely you're going to be taken advantage of. Precious metals, gold, silver, copper, things like that. There's just so much, and you need to be doing your due diligence now and learning these things, because suddenly you're going to have the money and you're going to be like, okay, what now? Let's go buy everything. And then you're going to find yourself in a lot of trouble. Listen, guys, thank you. I always appreciate your time watching these videos. I hope it helped you. I hope even if it just gives you some new ideas to talk about with someone else, then that's great. And if you don't like the video, don't watch it. That's all I got to offer. But thanks, like always, thank you for your time watching the show, and we appreciate it. And I hope this helped someone, and let me know in the comments. All right, thanks.